did the Civil Rights Act immediately end housing discrimination? Have you ever wondered if the Civil Rights Act of 1960 put an end to housing discrimination? This question takes us back to a time when the fight for equality was gaining momentum in the United States. The Civil Rights Act of 1960 was a landmark piece of legislation aimed at ending discrimination in various areas, including employment and public accommodations. However, when it comes to housing, the story is a bit different. While the Civil Rights Act made significant strides in promoting equality, it did not specifically address housing discrimination. It was not until the Fair Housing Act was passed in 1960 that discrimination in housing based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability was explicitly prohibited. This means that the Civil Rights Act alone did not immediately resolve the issues of housing discrimination. Even after the Fair Housing Act of 1968 was enacted, the reality was that housing discrimination did not vanish overnight. The law aimed to combat decades of segregation and inequality in housing. However, enforcement of the law was limited at first. Compromises made during its passage weakened its authority and penalties, making it difficult to hold violators accountable. As a result, many Black Americans and other people of color continued to face barriers when trying to access fair housing. Segregation and unequal access to quality neighborhoods, jobs, schools, and services persisted. These challenges reflected the long-standing issues of racial inequality in housing that the civil rights movement sought to address. The struggle for fair housing was an essential part of the broader civil rights movement. Activists and organizations, such as the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, have been advocating for open housing since the early 20th century. The assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1960 played a significant role in rallying support for the Fair Housing Act. However, the passage of this law was just one step in a much longer fight against housing discrimination. Discriminatory practices like redlining, which denied mortgages and investment to Black neighborhoods, continued to reinforce segregation and economic inequality. The fight for fair housing did not end with the Fair Housing Act. Activists continued to challenge these practices and push for real change. So, to answer the question, no, the Civil Rights Act of 1960 did not immediately end housing discrimination. The Fair Housing Act of 1960 addressed housing specifically, but the struggle for fair housing continued long after its passage. This ongoing fight reflects the larger history of Black Americans' quest for civil rights, equality, and access to opportunities in the United States.